We reviewed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom last week, and we predicted, of course, what Dominion would get, and we'll go through the Rotten Tomatoes score for that in a bit, at the end of our Attack the Clones review. But essentially, the reviews haven't been kind. I don't know if you've seen, Michael.
I've heard, I've not seen any specifics, but I've heard that people are not impressed.
Yeah, Dominion hasn't got that great reviews, and in this review from Rolling Stone, which says Jurassic World, basically, Dominion, it's not a movie, it's an extinction-level event. The person who wrote the article says, because I just love we say, well, it can't get worse than Fallen Kingdom, right? It can't get worse than Fallen Kingdom. Still, so this person writes, still the sheer sloppiness and slapdash vibe of 2018's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was a bit of a shock. You'd have thought the movie was assembled on the go while its creative team were being chased by an extremely angry Indoraptor. At the time, we declared it to be the worst Jurassic movie to date. We now owe that film an apology.
Yes! I'm so happy because I think I said, I love the fact that these films have so consistently just got worse.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. It's kind of like how everyone was sort of a bit disappointed when M. Night Shyamalan came out and made a good movie. And it's I was enjoying him just getting steadily worse.
Yeah, so, Michael, essentially things can get worse. And, I think that's what maybe people thought after The Phantom Menace as well. Things can't get worse, surely.
Yeah.
And then, well, let's get into the Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, more like, okay, you ready for this? Dominion, more like diminishing returns. Hello, and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are... I guess just, is there anything in particular, or are we just... Kenobi, of course, sorry. We are celebrating the TV show Kenobi, which has been out, or is kind of doing its run of its first season right now.
I think it's had 3 or 4 episodes by the time this is released, yes.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to be looking at a film that is about Obi-Wan Kenobi doing his thing, and that is Attack of the Clones, and it's also the 20-year anniversary. And, of course, we've previously looked at The Phantom Menace. So all of that is to say we are more than justified in talking about Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to defend your decision to pick this film because I was worried people might sometimes doubt your choice of different films. So I just wanted to give them the full justification. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about... I was about to say Jurassic World, about Attack of the Clones. Which actually, I suppose, ironically, Jurassic World is Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, that is true.
The dinosaurs are cloned.
That is true.
Billy and the Clonosaurus.
Yeah. The dinosaurs don't show up in the last 30 minutes, though. But anyway, so Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. It's its 20-year anniversary just last month in the middle of May, but of course we're doing it right now, as you said, Michael, because of the TV series Kenobi, which features a couple of the characters from this movie. It is a 2002 American space opera film directed by George Lucas and written by Lucas and Jonathan Hales. So it's written by George Lucas, Michael, and Jonathan Hales. It's the sequel to The Phantom Menace. It is the 5th film in the Star Wars film series and the 2nd chronological chapter of the Skywalker saga, which is what apparently the 9 episodes...
They're calling it now.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it now. Just an incredible end to the saga with the rise of Skywalker, of course. We'll see. Well, I don't know. We'll compare this movie to The Phantom Menace. I'm not sure about the rise of Skywalker, because of course it's in a different sequel trilogy. Or a different trilogy, I guess. But yeah, so this movie is directed by George Lucas, screenplay by George Lucas, Jonathan Hales, story by George Lucas, produced by Rick McCallum. What is it with the Ricks? Stars Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, Ian McDiarmid, Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, and Frank Oz. The movie was released on May the 16th, 2002.
As they say, May the 16th be with you.
Yes, great. In the United States, the runtime was 142 minutes, and I just bring that up because it felt longer.
Yeah. Well, I actually see, the funny thing is that I was recently thinking to myself about how The Last Jedi is very long, and I was thinking, every other Star Wars film is, just over 2 hours. And then I was like, hey, this film is
fairly
considerably
long.
over.
Yeah. About at least 15 minutes. Anyway, what is the budget for Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Michael?
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, I assume it was a lot for obvious reasons. There's a lot going on. George Lucas loves his technology. And maybe you could say he loves his kind of excess in some ways. And of course, they would have been willing to invest a lot in this. I can't remember what the Phantom Menace was. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like over 100 million. I guess I'm going to go for 130 million.
Okay, that's a fairly good guess. The answer is 115. So,
Okay.
Well done. You're quite close there. Yeah, you're right. Just over 100, but not like massively, because of course this is still 2002.
Yeah.
So, Michael, can you tell me what the box office was for Star Wars Attack of the Clones? Remember, The Phantom Menace, I think, just crept over $1 billion.
Okay, yeah. So I think this would have been lower. I think you may have mentioned before, and it makes intuitive sense. The middle film tends to perform the poorest. Because it's like the first film, everyone's excited, and the second film, and then the last film comes like, ah. So with that said, based on the fact
And the last one goes like, ah.
But yeah, based on the fact that, yeah, like I say, it obviously would have performed the poorest. It has to be less than $1 billion. I would imagine maybe a fair bit. I'm thinking like around the 700 millions, which would be obviously a drop of like 300 million. But yeah, it could. I wouldn't even be surprised if you said it was lower. But I'll just go for 700 million.
You know what? Again, Michael, a very good guess. And you said you wouldn't be surprised if it was lower. It is indeed lower, but not that much. It's 653.
Okay.
So yeah, no, you did some good guesses this week.
Yeah, I don't know how I managed that. What on me?
So anyway, we shall now get onto the question of whether we liked this movie. Michael, did you like Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones?
Well, when I was a kid, this was my favourite Star Wars film. I'd seen all of them, and I was like, I love this film, because it's like there's all the droids and like the clones, and there's all the fighting and shooting, and which is kind of weird, because there's a lot of like not that in this film as well, which is, so I don't know. But obviously now, I didn't like this film at all, and to be honest, I feel like this is it feels like this must be the first time I've watched this film with a really critical lens, because I think I'd watched this film at some point where I kind of knew it wasn't a good film, and I was
I
agree.
I agree.
Yeah, but like this is the first time I've watched the film just like full on cynical, adult with no patience for it at all, and I'm like, yeah, this is bad. It's not a good film. It's very boring.
Yeah,
I know.
I know it is. It is very boring. It is a mess, like you said. And yeah, it's a shame, because again, I think this is the first time I really sat down and watched this movie and analyzed everything, and really like obviously took notes like we do. And oh boy, it's bad. And the thing is, the Phantom Menace, I've always thought the Phantom Menace is the worst.
Yeah,
and we'll get into that. But yeah, I'm not surprised that people say, "Oh, this one is actually worse," because they are two really bad movies, man. And I'm not, of course, we're not breaking new ground saying this, of course. But yeah, it is crazy when you actually sit down and watch it. You're just like, "Wow, this is bad." Yeah. And it's of course completely different to how this was viewed as a kid. This movie works if you're a kid. If you're over the age of 21, it doesn't work. That's what I'm saying.
Makes me miss being a kid.
Yeah, okay. So let us go into our nitpicks. How many do you have, Michael?
I have 2 nitpicks and 1 lit pick.
Okay, you go first.
Alright, so nitpick 1. This is an obvious one, but the decoy didn't fail the senator at all. I know Mr. Plinkett pointed this out, but yeah, like the whole thing where there's the decoy gets blown up, and is then like, I failed you, senator. And it's just a very weird line, because obviously that's the point of a decoy. It's not a failure. And then also, Yoda says, concentrate all your fire on the nearest ship instead of on the nearest starship, instead of on the nearest starship, all your fire concentrate. Like, it's very weird, because I don't know, it like jumped out to me. Yoda just speaks completely normally. He literally just says, concentrate all your fire on the nearest starship. And I'm like, wow, Yoda, what are you doing? Talking normal.
He wanted to get his point across, he couldn't do because he just talks like that, that's his thing.
Fun.
Yeah.
And like, when he's actually serious. And the lip pick is, wanna buy some death sticks. That line is, I think maybe even the funniest line in all of Star Wars, just because it's like, I think it's because the film is generally kind of joyless, and then you just have that line of like, I want to go home and you want to go home and rethink your life.
I enjoy that. That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my lip pick, that line. Okay,
well, you went first, because I don't really have any nitpicks, because I think it's kind of impossible to nitpick this movie.
Because it's all quite bad, yeah.
There's so many errors everywhere. Cinema Sins would have a field day with this. which they probably did.
Well,
actually.
they did. You won't believe it. They did this in 2 parts.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And of course the Plinkett review, it goes through all the nitpicks as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're interested in all of that, you can watch that, which of course has, I think, like 3 million views or something, so a lot more than this will ever get. But yeah, one thing I've got some lit picks. One thing I like is the title is nice and easy compared to The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which is of course something that I appreciated as a kid. And okay, so there is a lot of politics. This is my other. I don't know if it's a lit pick or nitpick. It's just something I thought I couldn't figure out where else to place this. This is something that I thought after watching the TV show Star Trek: The Next Generation. I asked myself, why is there so much politics in these movies compared to the previous movies? The original ones from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And I think it's because George Lucas saw the success of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which was a massively successful TV show, spawned a bunch of movies, and he got jealous, and he kind of wanted to copy it, I think.
Yeah, that sounds credible. I can imagine that.
I don't know, because he started writing in 1994, The Phantom Menace. And that was just when Star Trek: The Next Generation had come to its end. You know, it had a big finale in 1994, then a movie came out that summer in 1994. Like, you know, that was the peak of like Star Trek in the 90s at least. And then a few months later, Lucas starts writing The Phantom Menace. And I think he's in his mind, he's like, well, this is a, you know, sci-fi, which is praised a lot. You know, it often deals with a lot of politics, like, and ambassadors, a ton of ambassadors in Star Trek. And that's why...
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think. Look, we know he's petty. He's got a vendetta. What did he call the aliens in this prequel trilogy? The Nemoidians.
Yes.
As a shot at Leonard Nimoy, and he's probably like, no, my sci-fi star franchise is better. So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's probably got an ego. I think that's fair to say. And I think he's like, well, if they're doing it, then they're getting praise for it. Well, and I'll do it, and I'll do it better.
Yeah,
that's
it's a good thing the TV show Stargate wasn't really popular. Otherwise, they'd have written about ancient Egyptian snake people. But no, I agree with you because like some of the conversations in here, I could imagine these conversations happening in Star Trek. Like Picard and his gang sat around like, oh man, there's an attempt to assassinate this ambassador.
We must protect the ambassador at all costs to keep diplomatic relations between the two people alive, you know, or whatever. Bullshit.
I don't know if, in my head, I want to be able to talk like Patrick Stewart, but I don't think I can. We need to stop this border dispute.
Yes, we immediately, number one, set course to the Corellian system to stop the border dispute. And then they sit down with the two ambassadors either side, and they have it like a logical debate about things. And, you know, that, again, is different to the original Star Wars, and I think that's what Lucas tried to incorporate, because, again, it's just a theory.
Yeah. I mean, it's really funny, because, in the original Star Wars, there's, like, one line where they say, the Senate's been dissolved. I remember in like the original Star Wars, just like Grand Moff Tarkin's like, the Senate has been dissolved, and now we can start our plan to blow everyone up or something.
Yeah,
and that was all the politics.
I genuinely think that might have been the reason. Again, this massively successful TV show, all about, you know, the politics and ambassadors and diplomacy and all of that. And Lucas then gets started writing on his Star Wars thing, and he's going to be influenced by it, and he wants to maybe better it in some way, or at least incorporate it into his stuff. I've just never heard that, and I thought that I'd bring that up, that theory. Don't know if it's true, but I think it's got some, you know, it's got some logic.
It's got
behind
legs.
It. Yes. So anyway, let's get into the plot of this movie, Michael. So, 10 years after the invasion of Naboo, the galaxy is on the brink of civil war. Under the leadership of a renegade Jedi named Count Dooku, thousands of solar systems threaten to break away from the Galactic Republic. When an assassination attempt is made on Senator Padme Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, a 20-year-old Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker is assigned to protect her. In the course of his mission, Anakin discovers his love for Padme, as well as his own darker side. Soon, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan Kenobi are drawn into the heart of the Separatist movement and the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Wow,
so I will say this.
Exciting.
Again, the plot of this movie is more concise than The Phantom Menace. You have like a clear, like linear plot. I say linear, it diverts like a third of the way through. Obi-Wan goes off and does his thing, and then Anakin goes off and does his thing, then they meet on Geonosis. It does deviate in the middle, but it is quite a lot simpler.
Yeah, each thing kind of follows from the other thing quite naturally.
Yeah. I just think the issue with this movie is a lot of what's in the movie is actually dumb. Like, the Phantom Menace is so like complicated. You're trying to work out everyone's motivations. this is everyone's motivations. I think is clear apart from one, which is the separatist movement, which I want to talk about.
Yes, I want to talk about that too.
Yeah, but overall, like it's not. It's a dumb movie because the characters in it do a lot of dumb stuff, but it's clear like what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve, I guess. But yeah, I think that's the main difference to the Phantom Menace. And I'll say that about the plot. It's easier to follow than the Phantom Menace. But anyway, so we get into the actual movie. So after the Battle of Naboo, after 10 years, I often find it weird in sci-fi they talk about like years because of course that's the amount.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's about like one individual planet.
Yeah, rotates on its axis. So I don't know. Maybe they just go off Coruscant years. Okay, of course. First thing you mentioned it, Michael. I failed you, my lady.
Yeah.
Just the first clue. George Lucas doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, like, it's like a completely incoherent line.
Yeah, it's like I do often think with this movie. It's like if a robot like had to write a Star Wars scene. You know.
Yeah. Do you think maybe George Lucas fell into a conveyor and his head got knocked off and replaced with a robot?
Maybe
and that's when he wrote the script.
Because you just like lines like that, you just sit back and think, what? Like, how did you come to write that?
Also, I wanted to say that the blowing up attempt wasn't that successful if she was able to survive afterwards. Like, I would assume if you're able to survive a little bit, it has to create the possibility you could survive just full stop. So that would have been embarrassing if they had got her and she would have just survived anyway.
I know, it would be very embarrassing. But anyway, so we have to immediately get into the politics of the movie because, of course, the movie opens up talking about politics, literally, because that's why Padme is back at Coruscant. And again, it's much simpler than the Phantom Menace, but still, it's in this movie quite a lot. There's probably a bit less of it, but it's still in this movie quite a bit. And there's still the politics is still the major driving force of the movie's narrative and what happens within the movie. It's the politics, and watching it back, you have to pay close attention to the politics, otherwise you don't understand what is happening. In the movie, similar to the Phantom Menace, maybe just less, severe on that front. But still, some things aren't explained. There is, of course, this separatist movement trying to split the Republic. And I just kept thinking, why are they doing this? Like, what is their motivation to sign the treaties with Count Dooku? Because the Neimoidians were angry at the taxation of trade routes in the first movie. That's why they decided to blockade Naboo. Why are more star systems joining this separatist movement? Like, is Count Dooku offering them that they aren't getting from the Republic? That is never explained unless I missed it. What do you think?
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like they don't. Yeah, they don't explain it at all. I mean, and also it's a bit weird because, like, I found Count Dooku's motivations confusing because, like, it seems as if, like, he's like, hey, the Republic is bad because it's controlled by a Sith.
But I think he's just trying to trick Obi-Wan.
Yeah, trying to trick him, yeah. Which, of course, with that said, though, it just means he has no real motivation at all because it's just like... I guess
his motivation is helping...
Yeah, that's it. Which, what a simp. So, yeah, basically, which, obviously, I guess... That would mean, therefore, that if the whole like basis for the separatist movement is just like a psyop by the Sith, then obviously the question is, why would anyone have an issue with it?
They have to be offering the separatists something like they have that scene where the guy says the banking clan will sign your treaty,
the Techno Union.
It's like, okay, what is Dooku offering them to get them to sign this treaty? Like, that's never explained. Of course, that's a major thing in the movie, which is driving everything, the separatist movement. Why is this happening?
Yeah, it's weird, like, because obviously, it just doesn't make any sense, because, like, on the one hand, I guess people would complain about the Republic, but the thing is, it's kind of weird, because the Republic seems pretty hands-off. Like, they don't even have an army, so it's like, why would you even need to separate from them? Yeah,
well, what is Dooku offering? Again, that's never explained, maybe because Lucas doesn't have a good answer. But yeah, there is this line from Padme which says, the separatists, if they feel threatened, will ask the Trade Federation for help. So that it's not even clear that the separatists are connected with the Trade Federation, according to, senators and people in the know. So these people, they because of course the Trade Federation are, based on the first movie, they're enemies with the Republic. Again, we're talking a lot about politics in this movie. That's what you have to do to understand this movie. So, okay, if they were friends with the Trade Federation, that would make sense, but that line from Padme suggests they're not, and they're doing it because of their own interests, and they're not really concerned with the Trade Federation. But yeah, I don't understand why they're doing it. And of course, that's a major point. That drives everything, like we said in the movie.
If George Lucas wanted to just steal from actual history, seeing as slavery's already been established in Star Wars, he could have just made it so the Republic was they had a little Lincoln in charge who was trying to take away everyone's slaves. And then they could have just been like, hey man, You know, these people, and then like maybe it could set the ground for like some Southern strategy or no, whatever it is, lost cause revisionists in the future.
Yes. Anyway, apart from that, I think it is fine overall, the politics, in terms of it making sense. That's the only thing I'm like, that doesn't really track. Well, I just would like an explanation, basically. So, the Chancellor needs an army as the Jedi are overwhelmed.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think it makes the politics boring when you don't really understand the sides. Because it's just like, oh, they're separatists. What does that mean? Oh, it means they want to separate. But why? Oh, because they want to be separate. It's just like, okay, I'm just not that... like, from my perspective, I'm watching this film and I'm like, why are the separatists even, like, bad? Like, you can't even, like, be like, well, what's... like, obviously they're bad because they're controlled by... they're controlled by the Sith.
Evil.
But it's like... But it's like, presumably, obviously, like you already said, there must be some kind of reason why they're being, like,
Lucas
enticed
doesn't
to it.
give
maybe
one.
they've got a point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he just doesn't give one.
Makes it pretty boring.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Chancellor, apart from that, things do make sense in terms of the politics. The Chancellor wants an army as the Jedi are overwhelmed. If a war happens, then they're fucked. At least that's his reasoning. So the Chancellor, wants to stop this separatist movement, doesn't want a split in the Republic, and it's not like the Phantom Menace in that it's not that convoluted. It's in terms of things not making sense. Things do make sense, really, apart from the separatist thing isn't explained. But anyway, let's get on to the Palpatine plan now, Michael. So
yes,
it makes sense. He wants to kill Padme because she's preventing the creation of a clone army, and she's a very influential senator, I guess, even though that's not explained, but I'll give it a pass for that. In the previous movies, Palpatine wanted the Queen to be captured by the East Asian aliens, because the Neimoidians, the Trade Federation or whatever, so that she would sign a treaty making the invasion of the planet legal, even though that would mean Chancellor Valorum wouldn't lose his position, as he had to step down as he looked, ineffective if this crisis on Naboo were to continue. So at least George Lucas got it right this time.
Yeah, at least his plan actually helps to achieve his goals.
Yes, the plan that Palpatine wants to put in action in this movie actually would help him achieve what he wanted. Yes, because of course if the Queen signs the treaty, then Chancellor Valorum stays. So him saying to the Neimoidians, I want that treaty signed.
It makes no sense.
It's just, oh god, he clearly spent like 2 minutes writing The Phantom Menace, as he probably did with Attack of the Clones too, but at least it makes a bit more sense. He hit it a bit more accurately this time. So of course, with Palpatine's plan, there are some themes that we need to explore, which again is kind of more than you can say for the the Phantom Menace. So Lucas has noted that, this is from Wikipedia, Palpatine's rise to power is very similar to that of Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. The latter was granted emergency powers, as is Palpatine. Comparisons have been made to Octavian, who became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, and to Napoleon Bonaparte, who rose to power in France in the late 18th century. Octavian was responsible for hundreds of political opponents dying well before he was granted powers. Bonaparte was appointed Consul for Life, or First Consul for Life and then Emperor, by the French consulate after a failed attempt on his life and the subsequent coup of 18 Brumaire in 1799. So there's some history there that you can compare. Yes, that you compare Attack of the Clones to. References to the American Civil War can also be discerned. So English scholar Anne Lancashire describes the Attack of the Clones as thoroughly political in its narrative. Yes, I agree completely. To the point that interpersonal relations are made subordinate to the political drama that unfolds. Yes. I also agree. Again, the politics drives everything, drives what the characters do in this movie. And maybe that's why people don't like it so much, maybe, because like the characters are just like pawns in this political game of chess, really.
You could say NPCs.
Yeah, maybe. And a critique of the increasing role played by economic and political appetite in contemporary First World international politics in general. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, really. So
it ain't that deep.
Yes, in this political drama, the Trade Federation, the former idealist Dooku, they say that idealist. Why is he an idealist? Like,
I never got that. Like, they say he's a political idealist, and it's like, what? See that? I mean, again, it compounds the question of like, what are the separatist goals? Because like they're like, oh, Count Dooku, the separatist, and then they're like, he's an idealist. And it's like, well, why? What's idealist about wanting to be a separatist?
Maybe it's less centralized power. That's the only thing I can think of. Because why would you not like what the Republic is? Well, maybe because the American Civil War comparison. It's like, oh, this body has too much power, and maybe that's what Dooku thought, and then he got influenced and turned fully to the dark side and didn't really give a shit about the separatists and all of that. But of course that's just speculation. And Palpatine's represent the economic and political greed and ambition of the political and business class. Yeah, I guess so. I guess they do.
Yeah, I can see that. That
Yes.
works.
Yes. So there we have it, Michael. There we have it. That is some themes in this movie. Some I think it's a bit of a stretch. Some aren't really that. Yeah, this is basically how Hitler came to power. How these dictators came to power by acquiring these emergency powers, by manufacturing a conflict, and of course, with some of these situations, a conflict wasn't manufactured, but this case, like Hitler, it clearly is with what Palpatine is doing. So yeah, I guess that is a thumbs up from me for the movie for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only issue I have, and it's kind of like two related things, but I always feel like it's I kind of feel like in a way these films are like an American libertarian's wet dream. Especially like this. Well, I guess all the prequels in combination, because it's like this narrative where like somebody just at the top of society says like, okay, everyone, we're going to be fascist now, and like everyone goes along with it. And I feel like the thing which is like missing from this film is one, the idea of like popular support, because I mean, like the thing is, you see like all the senators like cheer when he like gets emergency powers, but I just feel like they don't really develop this, like, because obviously the big thing with Nazi Germany is it isn't just like that Nazi Germany was like a totally liberal place and then Hitler just like tricked everyone with his emergency powers thing. No, like 30 like a decent percentage of the population was on board with Nazism, which obviously
and you're saying why would they be in this movie?
Well, what I'm saying is it's not really shown that they are, and I think that's the thing to be developed. And I guess the other thing that should be pointed out, and maybe to be fair, actually, this applies to Hitler. I guess it doesn't really apply to Napoleon and Augustus Caesar, but like the fact that like usually these kind of dictators ride in on like a kind of a platform of like hatred.
Yeah, maybe there should be more. There should be a bigger reason why an authorization is given to Palpatine for the clone army, because I think Obi-Wan gets captured in Geonosis, and that is the springboard for them to do that. There needs to be an actual attack on the Republic, I think. So yeah, maybe that's something that could have been done better.
I just feel like I don't really get why that would have been. Yeah, it kind of underdevelops the political will from everyone else. It's just like, oh, Palpatine tricked everyone, which is like becomes way more farcical in the third film, admittedly, where it's just like everyone, like in that film, everyone is NPCs, and it's just like Palpatine's just like, I've tricked you into being an empire, and it's like, okay, I guess that happened.
He says the Jedi is turned against us, and he's like, why is it? Why? It's just nobody cares. But anyway, that's for the next film. Interestingly, Wikipedia doesn't mention George Bush. Using a crisis to expand, his emergency powers or so forth, with the Patriot Act, which of course was, at the time, people compared what Bush was doing to what Palpatine was doing. Wikipedia doesn't mention that, which is interesting. So let's get into, we've talked a lot about the politics and Palpatine's plan. That's all covered. We will come back to it, in a bit, but let's talk about what actually happens in the movie. So Palpatine assigns Obi-Wan and therefore Anakin to look after Padme. You see things now that makes sense. Like that is something that he would do. So Anakin gets attached to Padme. So he falls in love with her and all of that.
Yes, another crazy example of his plan actually working to achieve one of his goals.
I know, right? I know.
He's come so far.
So much better than the first movie. So again, we get another case of George Lucas not thinking. They leave Padme in a room with so many windows. Literally the top floor of this building. They can hardly make it easier for the assassins. Also, the fucking bugs that these assassins put into the bedroom. Yeah, they're very dumb. Yeah. You know where she lives somehow. Maybe Palpatine told them. Just bomb her again. It worked the first time. You just need to get the right person. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes. No. Yeah. I 100% agree. Like I mean, like obviously, I guess it's it's cinematic, but it makes no sense because obviously it's clear they do it because it's like, oh, it's a creepy crawly thing, and it's like, oh, it's more tension, but obviously tension at the cost of the assassins actually being competent, which doesn't really work.
Yeah, he definitely needs someone to edit his scripts, George Lucas. That is the case, and we're gonna literally everything from here on out is stuff which is bad. So we then get another case again of George Lucas fucking up once again. Obi-Wan, he's the rash one. He jumps after the robot that puts the bugs into Padme's room. Of course, it doesn't make sense from a character's perspective, of course. Because Obi-Wan's not the reckless one, but also literally in the previous 5 minutes, you've shown Anakin and Obi-Wan disagreeing about their mandates. Obi-Wan just thinks protection is all that is needed for Padme, whereas Anakin thinks an investigation is necessary and part of their mandate. So therefore, if there is a clue regarding an investigation, which that robot, is of course, it's a clue, naturally it would make sense for Anakin to pursue it, given what he said. So yes, overall the recklessness of Anakin and his character compared to Obi-Wan means he should have jumped after the robot, but it's more than just a character issue. Like literally the previous argument in the 5 minutes, what they have been talking about, should indicate that Anakin should be the one to do it as well, as it's just his character. I mean, George Lucas, man, like what do you think he wrote that scene?
He just got the names mixed the wrong way around.
Maybe, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm writing a scene about how they're sitting with Padme. Obi-Wan doesn't want an investigation, Anakin does, and then it's Obi-Wan who jumps after the robot.
Yeah, maybe he wrote the two scenes like really far apart, and therefore he'd forgotten what he'd shown in the previous scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can write like that and just mess up that badly. But anyway, so of course we have this dumb chase sequence with the laws of physics are just violated over and over again.
Yeah.
And in a Star Wars movie, that is saying something, really. Anakin, I like how Anakin says, to Obi-Wan while they're in the speeder, I would very much like to find out who this assassin is. That's what he says. And then a minute later, he's sticking his lightsaber in the speeder, trying to kill this alien.
Yes. I thought it was stupid too.
I just it's so easy to point out as well. Like it literally is like they had one draft and they didn't bother to change anything. And we'll get onto that later, because perhaps that was the case. But yeah, we find out this assassin is a shapeshifter, which is interesting because wouldn't it be great if she used her shape-shifting abilities?
That's really funny. Yeah, she's a shapeshifter, which would be an incredibly useful skill, but she doesn't use it.
Yeah, like the perfect thing for an assassin. People think I'm someone I'm not, so I can get into places that I otherwise couldn't. But isn't relevant at all. Just what's the point in her changing her appearance to a different alien? There's no point.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, George Lucas, I don't know what the fuck. What is he doing, man? Did he write the character was a shapeshifter and then changed the assassination attempt afterwards, and just didn't change the fact that she's a shapeshifter? I don't know. But anyway, of course, Jango Fett hired this assassin.
Yes, are we going to talk about the bizarreness of, one bounty hunter hiring another bounty hunter?
Yeah, so Jango Fett was probably sent to do this mission by Count Dooku or the fucking Nemoidians or whatever. And I assume they hired him because he's a pretty good assassin. Like, that's what I would assume is why you would hire. And do you think they expected him to hire another worse assassin?
Yes, that's really funny. Yeah. And also, like, the logical thing would be, he hired another assassin, kind of like outsourcing. So, he can go do a different job.
Subcontracting, yeah.
Yeah, but then, like, he's there anyway.
Yeah.
Which creates, like, the additional question of, like, if he was there the whole time... Well, okay, like, there's two questions. One, why didn't he help her? Like, if they've got enough of a relationship behind her, like, you just think he might as well kill the people who are trying to get her rather than, and I'm talking about, like, before. And then the other obvious question is, why doesn't he fly back? Like, that would be the obvious explanation. Oh, he hired another assassin as a decoy, perhaps even cynically thinking that she would be killed. And then he's going to go and fly to kill Padme when they're occupied. But
doesn't happen. He just goes back to fucking Kamino, doesn't he?
Yes.
To see his New Zealand son. Yeah. I think they're from New Zealand. Anyway.
Yeah, they are from New Zealand.
Yeah. Anyway, and the thing is, he's got pretty damn good aim. Like, he hits that fucking alien assassin's neck from, like, what was it, like 200 meters away?
Quite a way away, yeah.
Yeah, like right in the neck. It's like, you're telling me this guy could have just easily killed Padme. I mean, he just doesn't think when he's writing this. Like, you can pick so many holes and nitpicks, which we kind of have in this chase sequence, and the Plunkett review does as well. It's just so stupid, and really shows the level of writing that Lucas brings to the table. But anyway, so Obi-Wan is sent to investigate what's going on with this bounty hunter. So the council obviously choose Anakin to look after Padme.
Yes,
makes sense. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of almost the opposite way around, based on the fact that they've got the hots for each other, and then conversely, Anakin's the one who said he wanted to do the investigation.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, I'm fine with them sending Obi-Wan because it's like, it's a mission which requires more experience, and theoretically, it's like, it should be easy enough to look after the senator because you're just.
Although you do get the classic joke of like, how many Jedi are there? How many missions they got going on?
Yeah, but the thing is, look, he is young and inexperienced, which could be an issue. But the biggest issue, of course, is that the Jedi must know Anakin has the horn for Padme.
Yes.
Like they must know. They should sense his feelings. Aren't they good at that stuff? And it's so dumb for those two reasons. He's young,
Yeah.
he's inexperienced, but that can maybe be forgiven. But like obviously, he might break the Jedi code that they have, which like in that Plinkett review, he tears into that code thing. But they have it in the movie, so like, why are you doing this? I mean, Lucas doesn't think about like stuff at all. Like he thinks the Jedi are idiots, and
Yes.
like they very actually might well be based on what happens later on in the movie. But yeah, Obi-Wan literally. The thing is, I've kind of said, oh, it's okay that he's a bit young and inexperienced. But actually, I remember Obi-Wan in the very next scene. Well, actually, there's a scene of the Chancellor buttering up Anakin. That's the next scene. But in the scene after that, Obi-Wan is saying that this guy who I literally spend all my time with is not ready for this assignment.
Yes.
Like, I know him better than anybody else, and this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then Yoda just says, "Oh, the council is confident in its decision." And why? Why is it confident? Why? Could you give me a reason, please? I mean, Yoda talks about, I think, afterwards how all Jedi are arrogant, and then Windu says, "Oh, he might be the chosen one," and all that prophecy bullshit. But yeah, they just ignore his flaws because I guess, well, every Jedi has them, and he could be really special. And I'm like,
it makes no sense because like in this case, he's got the very specific flaw of
Yes.
wanting to bang Padme.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like these are wise Jedi, really. Seems like they're kind of like, yeah, fuck it, it'll be fine. Not really thinking. Of course, the movie now deviates into two sections, Michael. It splits off into two sections for a bit. We get Obi-Wan's investigation and Anakin and Padme's love story. We'll save Anakin and Padme's love story for a bit. First, we'll talk about Obi-Wan's investigation. So he is, of course, trying to find out who is trying to kill Padme, and we get introduced to the greatest Star Wars character of all time,
Dexter Jetster.
Did you like him, Michael?
Well, I did like the fact that I'm pretty sure he has a British accent. Like it's a bit kind of hidden behind like his, but it's like a vaguely British accent.
So why is he in an American
1950s style diner?
1950s diner.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his accent is kind of,
Obi-Wan.
Yeah. It's very deep, but yeah. I don't know. George Lucas's mind, man. He's special. But anyway, he identifies the bullet as a Kamino saber dart, and he says it's because of the cuts on the side. And apparently, the analysis droids only focus on the symbols.
Yeah, which is a bit rubbish as analysis droids.
Yeah, why wouldn't they focus on the cuts? Like, surely that...
Yeah, you would think they'd, like, focus on the general shape.
Yeah.
Like, surely they'd scan everything and then just say, well, what's this?
They just focus on everything. Like, why limit yourself to the symbols? That makes no fucking sense. But anyway, yeah, a great scene there. But, of course, Obi-Wan needs to be told by a kid that somebody could have erased it from the archives.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked that out when I was a kid, Michael.
Yes.
No, but it's just... I think it's just an excuse to have the younglings in the movie.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it's kind of pointless anyway because, like, it doesn't really matter why it's not there in some sense because, like, he knows it's there. I mean, like, it's fine. I guess he, like, wants to know why it's not there, but it's
he doesn't want
to
waste his time, Michael.
Yeah,
he
like, the thing is,
all
like,
the way there and it's not there. It's a long trip back to Coruscant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of crazy though because it's like obviously pointing out that like, well, all of the gravity signatures or whatever show that it's there. So it's like, well, maybe someone just forgot to add it. Maybe someone accidentally deleted it.
Yeah,
like.
I know, but if I was him, I wouldn't be so puzzled by it either. Because maybe someone removed it. There was a glitch, whatever. And I think it's just an excuse to get the younglings, or the kids as they're actually known by humans in real life, to do that thing with the lightsaber. To reference the first movie, A New Hope. Yeah, I think Lucas put that in just for that. But anyway. Obi-Wan goes to Kamino and discovers a clone army has been created on Kamino after it was ordered 10 years ago by Jedi Master Cypher Dyas. Here's the thing. This is where I would start to get suspicious if I was Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Who ordered this if it wasn't Cypher Dyas? Because, apparently he thought Cypher Dyas died before this could have been ordered. And why, and this is the biggest tell, why are all the clones cloned from Jango Fett, who is clearly a bounty hunter working for the Separatists? Why would the Separatists do that? Like, again, this, to be fair, this is a very stupid move from Palpatine or Count Dooku or whoever.
Yeah, it's all very weird.
Yeah, this is what I mean about the characters being dumb. This is a really dumb move from the Separatists. Like, this guy who was doing your bidding and trying to assassinate Padme, but he also looks like literally every soldier for this new Republican army. Like, he is lucky the Jedi are so dumb and can't figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Otherwise, he should have fucked it. Dooku or Palpatine, they should have fucked it. But luckily, the Jedi are so dumb.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, like it's kind of like crazy because it's just like, I mean, it's also just weird realizing that even after this, they just keep the clones, which admittedly I guess is, like maybe just more of a razz on everything that comes after this film. But it's like, you have to wonder what's going through their head because they're like, okay, well, it's good we have this army, but surely like the fact that they're just constantly aware, like that would just be constantly in my mind. Like, oh, but also there's literally the fact that this army exists at all is incredibly suspicious.
Yeah, it was created under suspicious circumstances as well. You don't know who ordered it. Like, what's Jango Fett doing connected to this? And it's like, oh, he's trying to kill the senator that is opposing the creation of this army. But yeah, obviously, again, I mean,
and also, of course, the fact that the Camino was deleted.
Oh yes. Again, that's another thing that points to this being there is a conspiracy here that is very easy to uncover, really. But the thing
also, I wanted to point out really quick that it's kind of convenient that Jango happens to hang out on the planet he gets darts from. That's just a minor point, but like, what if he just went there and they're like, oh yeah, we make these darts. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, I guess, that's the thing.
I'm fine
like,
with
if
that. Yeah.
I was just say, okay, like, so let's say, for example, that I found out that you used a weapon to kill someone. It would be pretty convenient if I went to, like, the town where that weapon was sold, and you just happened to be there, rather than, like, I would assume most people don't just live wherever they get their weapons from. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I know, but, it's the best thing. It's the best lead he's got at that stage, so I don't have that issue with it. But, yeah, obviously, on Geonosis, he goes to Geonosis then. Oh, yeah, they try to do this thing with Newt Gunray says, I want Padme killed. And that's an attempt from Lucas to do a kind of an ass covering, if you will. It's like, oh, no, yeah, don't worry, guys. Look, it's Newt Gunray who still wants Padme to be killed. So don't worry. You don't have to think more about this than the Jedi are. Even though, of course, you think about it for more than 5 seconds, you should come to the conclusion that it's Palpatine, and then Newt Gunray is just basically getting orders, but whatever. So on Geonosis, Obi-Wan discovers a separatist gathering led by Count Dooku, who's developing a droid army with the Trade Federation Viceroy Newt Gunray, and ordered the attempt on Padme's life. Again, like, that's what they say, but we all know. That's what George Lucas would like you to think. But unlike the Jedi, we aren't children. And it is like that. I'm just thinking, it's like the he thinks we can't see him meme.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that meme? That is this with George Lucas in this movie. Yeah, he thinks we can't see. No, we can see what's actually happening, pal.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say, because we jumped over just very quickly on the like Obi-Wan following Jango and like that whole fight. I just wanted to say that it's kind of convenient that they
sorry,
realized,
we did.
Yeah. I just want to say it's kind of convenient they only realized Obi was following them when they were really close to their eventual destination anyway. Like, what if they'd realized he was following them several parsecs very far away from the destination, and then like obviously he like lost them, or they lost him, and then they flew to Geonosis and he wouldn't have any they would have removed the tracker and he would have been screwed. So it's very convenient they just happened to only realize when they were there.
It is very convenient. It is. Anyway, so Dooku meets Obi-Wan in his cell and explains his role in the Confederacy of the Independent Systems Formation. Okay, so I copied this from Wikipedia, and there you go. I had in my head, oh yeah, maybe Dooku doesn't like, the centralized power of the Republic, and maybe that's why he left the Republic 10 years ago and then turned to the dark side eventually. And yeah, apparently the full name of the separatist movement is the Confederacy of Independent Systems.
Yes.
So yeah, they want more power, I guess, for their own systems, like, the American Confederacy in the American Civil War. And of course he implies that Sith Lord Darth Sidious is in control of the large portion of the Galactic Senate. So this should be obvious now what's happening for Obi-Wan. And, the attacks on Padme are coming from someone who wanted to create this clone army. Dooku, of course, is this bad guy taunting Obi-Wan, says, which person has a lot of power over the Senate? Which person would benefit from getting a clone army? Like, come on, just use your fucking brain, man. Like, nobody uses their brain at all. As a kid, I didn't really get it, of course, because you're just like, as a kid, you're confused. You're as confused as, the Jedi are in this movie, but like when
which is not a good sign.
Yeah, I know it's not, but then when you get older, you get it. But anyway, I just want to talk about with Obi-Wan, to finish off on Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, because he is very good. He is genuinely perfectly cast for this role.
Yeah, really is.
His character appearance, I think, is great, and his line deliveries are always spot on. And considering the dialogue he has to work with sometimes, that's impressive. He's used so much better in this movie than the Phantom Menace. You know, he wasn't in that movie that much. He was, of course, in this movie
it's kind of
a lot.
hilarious how little he's in the first film. But everyone loves Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
That's why everybody loves the new TV series.
Kenobi, yeah. But just to say, they really did nail this casting, which is something that, again, the one thing they really got right in this prequel trilogy. So I've called the Jedi dumb, and they're as smart as kids quite a lot, and I'm going to do that again, Michael. So, obviously they find this clone army from the same place that the assassin that attacked Padme was from. They don't put two and two together, and of course the people who wanted the clone army want Padme dead. You know, it should be easy for the Jedi to work out, and yeah, Lucas basically wants to create this mystery, but he makes it so easy to figure out. You know, and I just think to the end of the movie when Yoda says, "Oh, the Clone Wars have begun," and you know he's doing this thing, and all the Jedi do, where they stroke their chins and they say lofty words about, oh, you know, what is going on in this republic and all of that, and they're very concerned, and it's so frustrating because they can't see like 2 feet in front of them. Never mind all this bullshit about the dark side clouding their vision. It's like you should be able to work this out so easily. I mean, like, this army was created, it had an unconvincing backstory. Like, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to work this stuff out, right? It's obvious. I just want to say that again. And
yeah, it's also kind of weird how, like, the Jedi literally, like, they I don't know, it's just, again, it's kind of the same thing. It's just so mental how, like, friendly they are. Like, Yoda basically just becomes, like, the de facto general of the army at the end, and he's just like, he's just so chill with it, and it's like, you're not just thinking to yourself, why should you even be like, it's kind of weird that they didn't even think for a second. Like, if I was them, I'd think, oh, if I send them to Geonosis, they're probably just going to immediately betray us.
Yeah,
like, you would just, like, my assumption would just be, oh, they're going to immediately betray us.
Yeah.
This is obviously a ruse.
Yeah, this is obviously some sort of setup, you know?
Yeah,
like,
maybe it was like a double bluff where they were like, well, you know, like, if they were actually trying to catch us out, they wouldn't make it so obvious. Like, I mean, think about how obvious this is.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, again, it's, oh God, it's... I just can't. I'm just thinking back. I just can't believe it. Like, remember at the start of the movie, the explanation that Mace Windu believed as to why Padme was nearly killed? Disgruntled spice miners on the moons of Naboo. That's the line he gives.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how dumb do you have to be to, like, fall for that? You know, like, just spice miners on Naboo? Really? I mean, come on, Jesus Christ. And considering what happened 10 years ago as well. Like, so, okay, the Jedi are done for that reason, but it gets worse, Michael. And, well, let's talk about Jar Jar first, because Jar Jar, he has a very important role in this movie, of course. You know, he's got such little screen time in this movie, but he plays so much more an important role in this movie.
Yes. I would argue he's more annoying in this film in a weird way.
I mean, I don't think he's in it
well,
so
like,
little.
in the first, but in the first one, he's like a sidekick. In this film, literally, like, a major plot point is like, because of him being an idiot.
That is true. He has more influence in the plot in this movie than the previous one. But yeah, of course, he proposes a successful vote to grant emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine, allowing the clone army to be authorized. So you may think, oh, Jar Jar is dumb, so this makes sense. But Jar Jar surely knew about Padme's feelings regarding the Military Creation Act. She is the senator against it most, apparently.
Yes.
And you'd then do a complete 180. Like, how mad must Padme be when she gets back to Coruscant? You know? Like, you did this, you authorized this. I mean, I guess maybe the clone army saved her on fucking Geonosis, but from what I can tell, her character is very principled. So yeah, like, the senator that replaces the most anti-military senator is the senator that gives the most powers to the Chancellor.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Yes.
And yeah, like, she would be so annoyed.
Yes.
And yeah, like, that's the thing, like, Jar Jar, the thing is, he's not really presented as being dumb in the rest of the films, is it? He's more like, he's annoying, but there's no moment where he's, like, really stupid in any other moment except for this one moment.
Yeah, that's what I think.
It almost makes you want to believe in the Darth Jar Jar theory.
Yeah, that's a great theory. It really is. But here's the thing. This is the real kicker. So when Palpatine is guilt-tripping Jar Jar into that move, do you know who else is in that room, Michael?
One of the Jedi, right?
Yeah, Yoda and Mace Windu were in that room.
Yeah, Yoda and Mace Windu, yeah.
So they are surely smart enough,
to realise what's happening.
To know about Padme's feelings regarding the Military
Oh, that's a good point too, yeah.
Creation Act. Well, here's the thing. So when Palpatine's assistant says, if only Senator Amidala was here, alarm bells should be going off in the Jedi's head. like they should. Well, this is
They're so dumb.
This is bollocks. Why is this guy lying, to Jar Jar about what Padme would do in this situation? Why are they so desperate to get this clone army that they're like guilt tripping and just making up these obvious lies about what Padme would do? And this clone army, which again came out of nowhere, they have no idea of the origin of, and the assassin who almost assassinated Padme is from there as well. Is from the place where they made these clones, And
Yeah, I think that's the one thing we can all agree. Padme would definitely want an army composed entirely of her assassin.
Yeah, exactly. It's again, but the Jedi, Mace Windu and Yoda are in the room. They shouldn't have been in the room for this. Lucas fucked up there, but it's like they're so dumb. And
Yeah,
Lucas
I always wonder if like Lucas forgot whoever the Jedi were there. Like he wrote the script without
Yes.
thinking they would be there.
That is exactly.
And then, like,
yes, that is. Well, I say that's exactly what happened, but they don't put two and two together with all the other evidence, so maybe not. Like,
yeah, that is true. Yeah,
it's so difficult to say. Yeah, but anyway, so Anakin and Padme just gets better and better, doesn't it? And we now go on to Anakin and Padme's romance. That is what we're going to be talking about now. Jesus Christ. I did find that funny. I was talking about the Jedi being dumb and being exasperated with their decision making in this movie, and then we move on to this.
Yes. Would you say that it is a little bit, in terms of the dialogue, stilted?
I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse and irritating, and it gets everywhere. How did that not win her over, Michael? I mean, actually, to be fair, it did. Like, what am I talking about? And then,
yeah, it's true. No, it did, yeah.
And then he says no. No, she says no after kissing him for like 2 seconds. I mean, Lucas's idea of romance, like
he had bad breath. I like to imagine that. Like she's like, it's like
put two attractive people in a beautiful place and they fall in love. Also, there must be attention to, they can't be together trope, that trope.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's very manufactured.
Yeah, despite Padme wearing revealing clothing, all the time around Anakin, she's like, I'm a senator. It'd never work, And it's like, she's getting dressed up in these elaborate outfits, and it's just, it's just because she likes her fashion sense, Michael, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, so I agree with, like, the theory of, like, Anakin's obviously a good-looking guy, so it would definitely make sense for her to want to bang him. But the thing is, like, everything he says and does works directly against him being a good-looking guy. Like, he's a good-looking... Like, from her perspective, the rational thing for her to be thinking is, this guy's kind of hot. If only he wasn't such an annoying weirdo.
We'll get into that, Michael. But I just want to say, the dialogue. We'll just pick up on that first. It's awkward. And it means the whole relationship between the two is soulless and completely superficial, Like Lucas, that's the thing, watching it back again, you don't really realise until you watch it again how much Lucas really tries to make this a love story as well. And he just fails miserably. Like, that's a central part to this movie. Like, it's a romance movie as well as, like, a sci-fi movie. It's crazy how much this is in this movie. And, of course, the dialogue, like we said, it's something else. The discount space Shakespeare stuff, Like, it's so funny to watch, and especially when Anakin goes, "I'm haunted by the kiss you should never have given me," or something like that.
Yeah,
with
it's crazy.
The worst delivery. I mean, there's no chemistry between them. This romance is completely not believable since they've known each other for 2 days, and crucially, like you just alluded to before, Michael, Padme, she seems like a rational adult from what we can tell, but Anakin, he seems like a kid. Like,
yeah, and she literally says, like, one of the first things she says to him is like, "Oh, you're still the same boy I knew from like 10 years ago." And it's like that. I feel like women, like, if a woman says that to you, I would not expect her to marry you 2 days later. If a woman says, "Oh, you remind me of the little kid version of you."
Yeah, you were always, you'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine. I think she calls him Annie as well, which is like her like little pet name for him. Oh, Annie. And that, another meme I'm going to use. Well, that was a fucking lie. That's what I'd say. Unless,
that's it.
Yeah, unless Padme's into that. But yeah.
Do you think like George Lucas maybe has like some kind of mother complex or something where he's really into older women?
You know what that means? Well, older women, it's an Oedipus complex, I guess. But that's specifically for the mother. I'm not sure about older women, but yeah, maybe. I don't know how old is his wife, but yeah, he basically says as well, Anakin, like, politicians should be made to agree with the ruler, and he says it not so seriously, but again, it goes against everything that Padme stands for too. So they don't really agree on politics that much. And then he commits genocide. And knowing what we know about Padme, again, this should be a red line. Like, this should be a big fucking fat red line. No, I'm not going to marry someone who just murders and slaughters innocent women and children. I guess you can argue whether they're innocent or not, but I guess the children definitely are from the Sand People.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what does she say after Anakin goes on this like crazy
Megalomaniacal.
Oh yeah, that's what Plinkett calls it, like a
Megalomaniacal.
there we go. Megalomaniacal rant. It's like, yeah, that's a red cross. Shouldn't happen.
I always like the thing I always like is supports a fascist dictatorship.
Yeah, that Plinkett thing is so good. That's the best part of his. I think any of his Star Wars reviews.
Yeah. I remember when I watched that video for the first time, and like one of the top comments was like, "I can't believe I'm getting dating advice from a guy reviewing Star Wars."
But I mean, it's good. It's useful because if you watch this movie and you want to follow,
it teaches you what not to do.
Yeah, it can teach you what not to do, and you shouldn't follow Anakin's advice. But yeah, it's like she's a really principled, peaceful senator. But after Anakin admits to slaughtering women and children, she just goes, "What was she like?" It's like
she says, like it's only human to hurt or something like that.
No, to be human is to be angry.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
She's like, what? Like, just George Lucas, man. Honestly, like there is no chance this would ever work in a million years. Like, yeah.
I feel like the only thing that could have made it make sense is if like they would have just like banged without actually being in love, and then she got pregnant with Luke by mistake, and then and that's because that would make sense. And then she's just like, okay, I'm just gonna have to.
I've got a better solution. How about you just not write Anakin to be this weird, creepy pervert who is a weird, creepy pervert who commits genocide and is fine with fascism and all of that. And also, this is the biggest thing I from his character that I took away from this movie. He is such a whiny brat. Like,
he whines so much.
Like the way he talks back to Obi-Wan when they disagree or whether they should investigate who is trying to murder Padme. That is so bad. Yeah. Like,
why shouldn't we?
Yeah. And he says master every time Obi-Wan says something to him, which just makes him sound like extra whiny for some reason.
It's like sometimes it's like passive aggressive too.
Yeah. Sometimes it just makes him sound like such a bitch. And then he whines about Obi-Wan to Padme all the time as well. He literally goes, "It's not fair," like that. Yeah. Like a fucking toddler would. I mean,
yeah.
This is a guy that Padme, this senator, who's a very she's very much a rational adult. That's what she's portrayed to be like.
Yeah,
she falls in love with this kid, literally, who has like the mind sometimes of a 10-year-old. And yeah, like he seems to. I love, by the way, when he's whining about Obi-Wan, and then in the next scene, George Lucas gives him very eloquent dialogue to say. Like, I love that. He just seems to be completely not in his character. That's great as well. But he seems. This is the thing we wanted to talk about with his relationship with Obi-Wan. It seems like he hates Obi-Wan. The thing is, he says at one point, Obi-Wan is the closest thing he has to a father. I think he says that twice. Yeah. And then he says that to Padme after we see the droidekas attack Obi-Wan on Geonosis, and so. That's what he says. Obi-Wan is the closest thing I have to a father. And then Padme has to convince Anakin to rescue him on Geonosis. And Anakin acts so indifferently to Obi-Wan maybe being dead. He just like...
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, alright, I guess we'll go, fine. Like, he said, oh, what if he's dead already? Like, he just doesn't seem to get... I don't know what Lucas is doing, man. Anyway, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. I just want to mention, because obviously, there's the line from the fourth film, he was a good friend. And it's just not true. Like, the thing is, there is like a video on YouTube called like Obi-Wan has PTSD, and basically it's like, it sounds like it would be like a joke video, but it's like actually supposed to be like a serious video. And basically has like Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness, recounting the events, like as he does in the film, like saying, oh, there were the Clone Wars and the Jedi, like he explains the whole thing, but then it like intercuts that with scenes from the prequels, with like this like music over the top to make it all emotional. And when he says, oh, he was a good friend, it like shows like the scenes of them like kind of laughing and smiling, which they do like on the elevator, they kind of laugh and smile. And it's kind of like, if you watch that, you'd be like, oh yeah, I guess they were really good friends. But then when you actually look at everything substantial, there's nothing there to suggest they were actually friends at all. Like they don't even... Like, I don't know, they just don't seem to get along at all. Like, they smile and kind of like laugh, like, oh, they're in the elevator, I'm like, oh,
when Anakin talks about Obi-Wan to Padme or whoever else, I don't think he talks about Obi-Wan to anyone else, but it's like 80% of it is just a slander towards Obi-Wan. Like, 20% of it is, oh yeah, he's a good guy, I like him, I'm lucky. And 80% of it is just him saying Obi-Wan is jealous of him. Like, it's just wild how Lucas wrote this. and makes us want to like Anakin, because that's, I guess, the point. Well, does he? I'm not sure. Maybe that's going too far there. But Anakin is certainly not meant to be fully gone to the dark side at this stage.
Yeah,
and he's just such a whiny, unlikable brat. And it's crazy how, along with the romance thing with Padme, and how like uncharismatic he is, basically, just how this character is just like the worst character you could possibly put in this situation. Like when Lucas was writing the prequels, I'm going to tell the story of how Anakin became Darth Vader. Like, this is the worst version of Anakin's character he could have written in this movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, so I think the reason George Lucas did it is because he basically, and I know this is also a line from a Mr. Plinkett thing, Anakin was written to be a bad apple from the start. And like, that does seem like, I feel like this film, it makes Anakin way too much of a dick. And this is like, I'm kind of moving on to like the his fall to the dark side and how this film.
It's not surprising, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I feel like this film should have, and it would have been better if it did, show him being a good guy. And like, one of the things I was thinking about in particular is the bit where he like admits that he supports fascism. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, what's funny about that is like, I think a lot of fascists, and certainly like the OG fascist Mussolini, he used to be like a liberal socialist, but then he became a fascist because of, I guess like he became disillusioned with the system. And like, the thing is with Anakin is that could work so well. Like, he starts off as like a liberal who like, but liberal whatever, who believes in like democracy,
he's like
and
Padme,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically like Padme, and they agree a lot, which would make it much more logical for them to actually get along.
Yeah.
And then like, obviously what that can set up, maybe you could have something hinting at it like at the end of this film to kind of end on a bit of a negative thing, but obviously more so in like the third film, it could be like, actually he sees a problem with democracy and he changes. And obviously this applies to everything else, like his arrogance, his hatred of Obi-Wan. These are things where like, if you had this film as like the contrast where he isn't arrogant, he doesn't, maybe you can have a bit of the arrogance.
Yeah, just like a bit. Just sprinkle it in to show it's there.
Yeah. But like with Obi-Wan, he should just be like totally friendly with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you need to foreshadow that at all. But yeah, like particularly on that democracy thing, because obviously the big thing with Darth Vader is that he works for the Empire, which is like an autocratic fascist regime. So having Anakin just casually admit in this film, which is the first time we see him as an adult, he's just like, well, if dictatorships work, and it's like, okay, so at that point he doesn't really have that far to fall then.
It doesn't make it interesting. That's the issue. It doesn't make it interesting if he's a bad apple already. And George Lucas, because he's so dumb, he's like, well, he's an evil guy, so he's got to show these evil characteristics. That just makes sense. So he's got to be like bad from the start. Like, instead of showing how events can make him become evil. And well, I guess you could say, his mother's death, that made him become evil, but already before then he was, a bit of a dick, and that just took it to a whole new level. And again, like, does he ever tell Obi-Wan or the rest of the Jedi Council what happened on Tatooine? Because if they heard that, they should have expelled him from the Jedi Order, like, immediately.
Yeah, I like how, like, Obi-Wan's like, you'll be expelled from the Jedi Order just for, like, getting out of the troop transport. And Anakin's like, well, let me tell you what I did earlier.
I just massacred, like, 300, like, sand people.
Look, okay, if you're angry about the idea of me jumping out of this to go rescue Padme, let me tell you, I've done a lot worse.
Jumping out of this transport, that'd just be a normal Tuesday for me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You know what's kind of like wild about, and I think this is one reason why, it's not that great. I'm thinking about like George Lucas's writing. Does any character ever really change? I think, well, okay, so admittedly, like, I guess in the original trilogy, like, Han Solo kind of changed. So, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the prequels. I was thinking.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, I was just wondering, but yeah. In the prequels, weirdly, even though it should be, like the ostensible point of the prequels is to show, like, how we get from one situation to a different situation.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single character who changes.
No, I mean, Anakin...
like, every single character is exactly the same. Well, like, obviously, Anakin, you say more extreme, but basically just a continuum with how they were when we first saw them.
Yeah, if you were to say after Attack of the Clones, like, oh yeah, Anakin is gonna, you didn't know what happened in the original trilogy. If you just to say, oh yeah, Anakin, that guy's gonna become Darth Vader, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, you could literally, like, when he like goes to kill the Tusken Raiders, you could just cut the entire, like, that could be like the final scene.
Yeah.
And then
So
just
it's-
going on to that, you could be like, oh yeah, he's Darth Vader.
So it's completely uninteresting then if it's already so clear what he's going to become. Part of what should have been the case with Anakin, I agree if you were to rewrite this well, is he starts like you show a bit of it like here and there, like his dark side, but not too much. And after the Attack of the Clones, it's like, oh yeah, I can't really see him turning to the dark side. That would be quite a leap. That of course the third movie would explore that leap. But yeah, no, it's just very clear from the beginning because it's poor writing from Lucas. I just want to know, by the way, in terms of the Tusken Raiders killing his mother, like why did they take his mother? Was it? I have to think it was Palpatine who somehow made them do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, see that would make more sense. Yeah, because I don't really. Yeah, they don't really explain it at all.
No, they do not.
Like I would assume that like it would make sense they're like slave traders, but then the question is why did they randomly? Why did they hang on to?
Why do they keep this like 60-year-old woman who's just like very physically unfit? Probably, like why? It would make sense if Palpatine did it, but again, we don't see that. And I have to say, I do like the music after Anakin goes sicko mode. When it builds up, like the violin, like dun, 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 dun. That's cool music. Shame the music, of course, is really good in this movie. It's a shame it's used.
Well done, John Williams.
It's a shame it's used in this movie, but yeah. Again, like things are very, very too easy to choreograph. Like what's going to happen with Anakin? It's like, oh yeah, he is then going to become Darth Vader. Yes, of course he's like.
Yeah.
It's Lucas can't think in a nuanced way. Everything has to be incredibly simple for him. But anyway,
like that's it. Basically, all you're seeing, you're not really seeing like his change. You're just seeing the origins of his evil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the change, of course, would be interesting. That would be great to see. That's what a character arc is called. But no. Anyway, so we go to Geonosis next, or Anakin and Padme do, of course. And I like the line from Padme saying, "I want to find a diplomatic solution." And so that's where they sneak in through the air vents. That's a great start to diplomatic, solutions, going through the fucking air vents instead of, basically, I don't know why they added that line. That was stupid. But yeah, they have this bad action scene in Geonosis, which I remember being good in the Lego Star Wars games.
I like those.
Yeah. But yeah, C-3PO, he's doing some wacky stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. See, that's the thing. Yeah, I do actually. I suppose I should admit, I actually think in a way this film gets better towards the end, and I think it gets better not because like in a meaningful sense improves in quality, but just because it becomes like more entertaining.
I don't.
Just because there's stuff going on. Like I like the whole assembly line.
I disagree.
Scene.
Well, I disagree. I would say things just stop happening as we go. It just becomes like action scenes, and you can't really mess up action scenes too much. Really. Yeah. So,
but yeah, the I didn't dislike the little droid scene or like the kind of droid assembly line scene. It was silly and like ridiculous that obviously like it defied kind of logic that they didn't die basically. But yeah, it was still. I would say like if that scene happened in like a good film, I would be fine with it.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I would probably think it was a stupider scene in the film.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so Padme and Anakin are about to be gladiated.
Yes.
I like that good point from Plinkett that Lucas saw Gladiator in 2000 and was like, oh, I want that in my movie.
Yeah.
He's so transparent, he really is. So Padme, of course, has that line, I truly, deeply love you.
Yeah.
And again, from what we've seen from Anakin, it's just so unbelievable. But anyway, they're fighting the monsters in this gladiatorial arena. And again, I think that's fine. I don't know. Like, people don't seem to like it.
Yes, I kind of agree with you. I think it's a fun scene.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. And also, you get like... a good line from Obi-Wan where it's like the we came to rescue you, and he's like, good job.
Yeah.
Like that's like quite.
That's what I'm talking about. Ewan McGregor's line delivery.
Yes.
Yeah. Ewan McGregor knows what he's doing with those line deliveries. But yeah, obviously, this is a bit where Padme has to jump down onto the rhino monster. And, to be uninjured, like, her vagina must be made of titanium.
Yeah, I was kind of... Yeah, it's really hard not to think about that. She just goes like...
Yeah, like, it's so from high... I was watching it, I was like, wait, I think I remember she jumps down onto this, like, this fucking rhino creature, which has got pretty hard skin. And that's going to really... She's not going to... Oh, she is. She just did that. And she's not even a Jedi, so... I don't know. Like,
yeah, she's like so unfazed by it.
Bro, that would have killed her. For she wouldn't be able to walk after that, like literally. But yeah, of course, that should be a nitpick, really. But whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, Jedi and the droids battle in the Ultimate. I think it's like the kids playing with action figures moment of any Star Wars of any Star Wars movie. I don't know. As a kid, I thought it was cool, I guess, to see all of this. But yeah, it's just like it's just. schlock, really, I think is the term.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although again, I did like see. I remember like the weird thing is I remember C-3PO doing like the "die Jedi dogs" or whatever he says from the first time I watched this film, because the first time I watched this film was like with like my family, which obviously makes sense because I would have been like a little kid. So we kind of like put it on as like a family, and I remember when that scene happened, everyone laughed, so everyone had a good bit of fun. Like, oh, C-3PO.
Yeah.
And yeah, I imagine if you're like kind of say somebody who's my parents' age who grew up with the original trilogy, you probably really enjoy C-3PO. He's a classic of the franchise.
And yeah, Anthony Daniels approves that. He's the
Yes.
most important character, really. But obviously, then the clones arrive immediately, and like what you said before, Yoda, I guess he approved them very quickly. He was just like, yeah, let's take the clones all the way to this Geonosis thing. I'm not going to care about how they were ordered or whatever, even though he's meant to be the wisest Jedi. So he's right there to help the Jedi. And of course, we have this massive CGI slugfest, which again is what I think Lucas was most invested in. We talked about this one in the Phantom Menace review. That's why he came back, and that's what he cares about the most, making sure these battles look cool with his special effects that he wanted to use. And it ain't great, really. It's just like computer animated, like the droids are blowing up this ship, and then the fucking clones are blowing up a droid ship. And I don't know. But we talked about in the Phantom Menace review, Michael, if you remember, how critics were blown away by the special effects and gave the movie a better rating because of it. But by the time this movie came out, I think they'd woken up, So, they understand that the story is the most important thing. It's just it's just a disposable droid army fighting a disposable.
Oh yeah, well actually, the mention of the disposable is something I wanted to bring up. The fact that this is like now it's been like pretty established that all of the fights, there is no actual, like from the perspective of an adult, there is no tension in the fights at all. Because like you just I mean the droids are really hard to take seriously as a threat anyway, because they're just like such a joke. And it's kind of like, because I was kind of thinking about that, like the fact obviously at the beginning you do actually have Jedi, I say at the beginning of the fight you do have Jedi being killed, but it's kind of just like, I don't know, it struggles to land because the droids just don't feel like much of a threat. So even when they do die, you're just like, oh, idiots. But yeah, obviously once the clones show up at that point, it's just like, okay, yeah, so this is just going to be the rest of the series now, just disposable or like replaceable clones fighting replaceable droids. Which is, the funny thing is they do have the line about how like the clones take a while to produce, and I was thinking to myself, like, if they would have been smart, they could have had the whole clone thing, and then they could have made it so like in Revenge of the Sith later on they don't have enough clones, so that's when like actual kind of people have to start signing up and joining.
I mean,
fight.
I don't really care about that too much, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Their contract ran out with Kamino at some point, and so they have to recruit more, actual people. Or capture them like Finn. I guess that was First Order, but they probably did the same with the Empire. But anyway, obviously, I think the pacing in this movie is an issue, because I was thinking when the clone army were fighting the droid army, it's like, we had a lot of the movie is talking. I don't think it's as bad as the Phantom Menace, but it is talking and a lot of politics. And then all of a sudden we have probably about like 30 minutes of just pure action at the end of the movie, which again is a massive escalation, and it's just like, okay, this is, it could have been spaced out a bit better, I guess, but obviously Anakin and Obi-Wan then intercept Dooku, and they engage in a lightsaber duel. Dooku injures Obi-Wan and severs Anakin's right arm. So here's the thing. I want to talk about Count Dooku now, Michael. He's a random new character that wasn't mentioned at all in the first movie. And I just kept thinking, like, why not Darth Maul? Darth Maul could fill this role perfectly well. And again, Lucas didn't plan this out at all. I guess he wanted a cool death scene at the end of the first movie. Darth Maul. You could have just done what you did in the fucking New Hope with Vader. He got shot away, remember, by, I think it was Han Solo?
Yes, yeah,
just do that with Darth Maul. Actually thinking, if like, obviously we know that Darth Vader was just meant to be this like bully character. What if, this is interesting to think, what if like Lucas, it probably would have been a massive change to the story if Lucas in A New Hope had just made Darth Vader die You know?
Yes, yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah, that would have been, and then they would have just had to bring in some random person in
Yeah.
episode 5 to be like, Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, who are you?
It would have changed movie history literally, because then Darth Vader doesn't become an iconic character,
Yeah.
and maybe, I don't know, The Empire Strikes Back, it's not nearly as good probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, also, of course, it's worth noting that they do bring, canonically, Maul does survive because he's got robot legs.
I don't care. That's
which is
bullshit.
dumb. Yeah, obviously it's dumb. But yeah,
fucking
like,
Rebels
I mean,
bullshit.
Yeah, with that said, it does mean that, like, even, again, who cares about canon, like, officially? But technically speaking, if we believe the...
Oh, he's going to show
Disney,
up, actually.
Yeah, because I know he shows up in Solo, like at the end, like the teaser thing.
He's going to show up in Kenobi. Oh shit.
Yeah, like it would make sense if he did.
That's episode 6.
I mean, not like logically, but yeah.
Oh yeah, not logically, no, but yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with you. Like, Count Dooku is pointless.
I mean, on all 3 of these prequels, we have a new major villain for the Jedi to defeat.
Oh yeah, because there's Grievous in 3.
Yeah, I guess it's more toys to sell. I guess, I don't know how popular Count Dooku toys were. Imagine less popular than Darth Maul. But yeah, that's maybe why he got shafted right at the beginning of the next movie. And yeah, Grievous was the big threat. But yeah, obviously Yoda intercepts and then, of course, defends Anakin and Obi-Wan. And he, what does he do, Michael? Yoda?
It takes out a little laser sword of his and goes... laser sword and goes to town.
Takes out his little laser sword and really goes to town. We haven't seen that yet,
Yeah, what do you think about, like, so, like, obviously, yeah, like, for many people, Yoda fighting with a lightsaber is controversial.
Controversial. Yeah,
because it's like
Plinkett really didn't like this, and I guess it's different if you grew up with Yoda from The Empire Strikes Back, like, obviously, Red Letter Media guys did. Yeah, I guess people of that generation to see, oh, this is what Yoda's character represents, and just have him like defiled by flipping around with his little green laser sword. It's just, I can understand why they got so mad, and like it takes away a lot of Yoda's mystique and what makes his character so special. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't grow up with this movie, so I don't have that big an aversion to it. But I can understand people who do.
Yeah. I feel like, well, there's kind of like, I guess, 2 issues. Because in some sense, I don't dislike it because I am used to it. The 2 issues is, one, it creates like a contradiction of like, why is he so immobile most of the time, but then just randomly when he decides to start fighting,
because he's not using the Force.
Yeah, I don't know, but like then you would almost think like, why doesn't he just use the Force all the time if he's such a great Force master? But yeah, the other thing about it is,
he doesn't need to. That's what I mean, I'd say. Like he can still walk around fine.
Yeah, and the other thing about it, and this is why I don't like, and this is obviously more about the 3rd one, but I don't really like the idea of Palpatine fighting with a lightsaber. It's like, I feel like there's this idea that sometimes when characters, like, there's a level of power that's like above the physical, and it's like once you reach that level of power, you don't even do the whole physical thing. And like, yeah, in my head I've always been like thinking, well, like Palpatine, I mean, obviously he's dumb, but like in principle he's supposed to be like a guy who just controls people, and a bit like Snoke in, that's crazy, but there we go, I'm giving credits to the sequel trilogy, like Snoke in the sequel trilogy. Yes. You never actually see him use a lightsaber, and that kind of makes him seem more powerful. And I feel like that's what Palpatine should have been like. And I guess obviously based on that logic, Yoda as kind of the inverse to Palpatine should have been kind of a similar thing, where he's like, so, but yeah, obviously the problem is, I guess, that's all undercut by the fact that he's really stupid. So it's kind of like, it's like, well, if he can't bloody sense anything going on around him at any point, I suppose he might as well be good with a lightsaber.
Yeah, Yoda really, of all the characters from the prequels, like Yoda probably takes the worst beating in terms of reputation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Lucas he doesn't get it. I guess at the end of the day, that's what I'll say about the Yoda thing, because like Lucas he was around in the 80s, of course. He made those movies, was partly responsible. I guess the episode where Yoda was in Empire Strikes Back, he had the least involvement.
He didn't direct that one, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, hey, that that's why he's fine, having Yoda do this, because maybe it wasn't even his idea to put Yoda in that movie and have him put in the franchise. But yeah, so he just doesn't understand it. And of course, if you were rewriting this movie, why not have Mace Windu do that instead? Because Mace Windu, he's a human. He can use his lightsaber. Like he seems like that. It seems like that would make more sense in that situation. But whatever. And I think Mace Windu's backstory is he was on the dark side, then he converted to being a Jedi. And you can have,
yes, I heard that from somebody.
Yeah, and you can have the opposite with Dooku, obviously. So a nice little, the Force will be balanced or whatever in that fight, whatever that bullshit is. So yeah, Michael, let's conclude now because then we're at the end of the movie, and
Yes.
yeah, there's nothing else to say really. So you go first.
Yeah, so this film is not great. No, yeah, it's pretty it's boring at the beginning and it doesn't make much sense. And it's just not very interesting. Everything's kind of flat, and the dialogue being bad makes it is kind of like almost the central thing, because then like that means the characters are badly written. And yeah, you can see it right away with just the complete incoherence of I failed you as your decoy by dying instead of you. So that's your, but yeah, like that's the thing, and that means you don't care about the characters, and the way the characters are written just is not good. And then so there's stupidity from all of the people who should be smart. There's arrogance and anger from somebody who should be setting up, as like Anakin, like the Jedi who is good and is going to fall later, and like, oh no, he's already bad. And yeah, I guess like the thing is, the end is only entertaining in that I guess you realize, like you kind of already said, if it's just mindless action, that's hard to screw up. And I feel like that's kind of the only satisfaction that comes with like the massive fight scene at the end. Is just like, okay, he can't really screw anything up at this point. So all of that's not very good. I think, yeah, this film for me, you hinted at talking about this, is worse than The Phantom Menace. The only thing this film really has over The Phantom Menace is that like it's at least has like it's less pointless than The Phantom Menace, because obviously with The Phantom Menace basically everybody dies in it, so you can pretty much just, or rather, sorry, basically Anakin grows up, Qui-Gon dies, Darth Maul dies, like it doesn't really achieve anything. This film at least actually matters, but maybe that's not a good thing when it's so rubbish. With that said, I think I'm gonna give it a high 2. I don't think it's a 1, even though it's very incompetent. I don't know. Maybe I'm being generous, but yeah, for me, I'm gonna give it a high 2.
Yeah, I think honestly, after watching this, I'm gonna give it a 2.5, which is the same rating I gave Phantom Menace. I think after watching this, they're both basically as bad as each other. I think, and I mean, okay, they're as bad as each other, but I will say this: like everybody in this movie is dumb. Like things that should be obvious are not even seen by the wise and powerful Jedi. Conspiracies are discovered, and the only conclusion is, well, that's a bit weird, isn't it? And the Phantom Menace, though, the issue with that movie, it was nonsensical in a lot of ways. Characters just did things that they shouldn't do, of course, like we pointed out, Palpatine, which is still, I think, probably the most stupidest thing in the prequel trilogy. And yeah, everybody in this movie is just very dumb instead. Like, it's like if you got a maths problem, like, what's 5 times 5? Like, Attack of the Clones would answer 10. Which is obviously wrong, but it's done 5 plus 5. But Phantom Menace would say the answer is like the letter X. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, well, obviously that you're dumb, but you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? And it's a lazy script. And and the thing is, I would say that would mean Attack the Clones gets it's closer than the Phantom Menace to the maths problem. So Attack the Clones is better maybe, and the movie is simpler. But still, what really brings it down to the Phantom Menace's level is the romance of Padme and Anakin, which is just so bad. And again, there's nothing really comparable to that in The Phantom Menace. But yeah, the romance stuff between Padme and Anakin is just completely awful. So that's what brings it down to the level of The Phantom Menace, even though I think overall the plot of the movie is slightly better than The Phantom Menace. But yeah, like I said, Michael, just like The Phantom Menace, this is a lazy script. I just looked on Wikipedia. In March 2000, just 3 months before the start of principal photography, Lucas completed his rough draft for episode 2. Just 3, and this is just a rough draft, by the way.
Yeah, rough draft.
Yeah, so Lucas continued to iterate on the rough draft, producing a proper first and second. For help with the third draft, which would later be the shooting script, Lucas wrote on Jonathan Hales, who had written several episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but had limited experience writing theatrical films. So this is the guy who you get to write, this big Hollywood, blockbuster. A guy who hasn't really written a lot of films, but I guess you know him because he's worked on Indiana Jones stuff. So basically that he's not going to go against you.
Exactly. Yeah. He's going to be a yes man.
He's going to be a yes man, essentially. Yeah. And so the final script was completed just 1 week before the start of principal photography. So yeah, you have inexperience on this, people working on the script, and you have people who were yes men probably. And, of course, you have the lateness, and Lucas, apparently he started writing this late because he didn't like the backlash to Phantom Menace, so he wasn't enthusiastic about doing this. It was just like, this is the epitome of a script, which is just lazy and not thought out, and just like, yeah, sure, I guess that'll do. Let's get shooting now. I mean, oh God, it's so It is crazy how the lack of enthusiasm that Lucas had for his own movie here, considering how many fans would love to write something like this, and he's just clearly from the background to the script, and clearly from what we saw in the movie, he was just very nonchalant about it. Like, yeah, sure, we'll do this. It doesn't really matter if it's very obvious to everyone and everyone's making dumb decisions, but that's what he chose to do, and he got 600 million out of it. So, Michael, we are now going to look at the Rotten Tomato score for Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
Another awful sequel. Bloody hell. So, do you remember our guesses from last week?
Did I guess like 64?
You guessed 63. I guessed 72, which would be around what the original Jurassic World got on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was like 71 or something. Do you know the actual score?
No, I don't know.
It is the lowest in the Jurassic World or Jurassic franchise, including the original movies and the sequels. I think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was about at 48% or something on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
This is at 30.
Ooh.
This has to be a really bad movie, man. Like,
yeah.
We tore into Dominion, and this...
Fallen Kingdom?
Sorry, yes, Fallen Kingdom, and somehow Dominion has done worse, so... My God. Anyway, so that means you were 33 off, Michael. I was 42 off, which just massive differences. Again, we thought it couldn't get worse after Fallen Kingdom. How wrong we were, which means you had a score of 2 before. You now have a score of 35. I had a score of -13 because, of course, we put in our Oscar scores.
Yes.
We take them off what our Rotten Tomato scores, and so that means I now have a score of 29. So I was leading you by 15. Now I'm only leading you by 6. The score is 35-29. So, yeah. I guess we can't really do a predictions for Kenobi because it's a TV show, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't really work like that. But yeah, Michael, what are we doing next week? Are we doing a good movie next week?
Yeah, move over Star Wars: Attack of the Clones, Anakin and Padme. It's time for a real love story. We're doing Lolita.
Fucking Lolita.
Actually, no. Stanley Kubrick.
We are not fucking Lolita.
We're not fucking Lolita.
We're not doing it.
It is Stanley Kubrick, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the 60-year anniversary.
Yes, the 60-year anniversary of Lolita. And yes, so join us for that next week. But we have been selecting and reflecting on Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Christ on a Bike. We've done Fallen Kingdom and Attack of the Clones, and I just feel like I hate movies now. But anyway, join us next week for Lolita. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.